By the winter of 2024, the world watched in stunned silence as the Assad dynasty, a regime that had survived 13 years of fire and over 650,000 deaths, finally turned to ash. A lightning offensive by Turkish-backed HTS rebels did what a decade of diplomacy could not. It shattered the status quo. But this was not the end of the violence. It was the birth of a terrifying new shadow war. Today, two former allies, Turkey and Israel, stand on the precipice of a direct military confrontation over the remains of the Syrian state. For Turkey, the fall of Damascus was a masterstroke of long-term strategy. For 13 years, Syria had been a wound that would not heal, saddling Turkey with 3 million refugees and a growing threat of Kurdish separatism on its very doorstep. Ankara's vision was clear: a reborn, centralized Syria under their sphere of influence that would allow them to relocate millions of weary people and finally crush the PKK insurgency once and for all. The momentum seemed unstoppable when, in May 2025, the PKK announced it would dissolve its armed struggle, handing President Erdogan a historic triumph as he eyes an unprecedented fourth term. But as the Turkish crescent rose over the Syrian capital, a cold dread took hold in Tel Aviv. While the fall of Assad crippled the Iranian land bridge to Hezbollah, a massive victory for Israel, it replaced a known enemy with a volatile unknown. The new Syrian leader, Ahmed al-Shara, may speak of moderate reforms and even formal recognition of Israel, but the Israeli security establishment sees only a wolf in sheep's clothing. Haunted by the October 7th lesson, where they once viewed Hamas as a pragmatist they could work with, Israel has abandoned the hope of diplomacy for a doctrine of absolute security. They refuse to believe a former al-Qaeda affiliate has truly changed its spots. To prevent a new jihadist threat from taking root, Israel did not wait for the new government to settle. They carved out their own reality through steel and fire. The Israeli military launched a preemptive strike, seizing control of the UN buffer zone in the Golan Heights and launching a relentless bombing campaign that wiped out Syria's naval, air, and chemical assets. They issued a chilling ultimatum. Southern Syria is now a demilitarized zone enforced by the Israeli Air Force, with or without the new government's consent. The tension reached a terminal breaking point in September 2025, when Israeli jets struck a government complex in Doha, Qatar. Qatar is Turkey's greatest regional ally and a major non-NATO ally of the United States. By striking Hamas negotiators on Qatari soil, Israel sent a clear, brutal message to Ankara. Being a US ally or a NATO member is no longer a shield. Turkey now fears that if Israel is bold enough to strike Doha, then Istanbul or Ankara could be next, especially as Turkey continues to host Hamas leadership. The two nations are now locked in a terminal, irreconcilable disagreement over how Syria should exist. Turkey demands a strong, unified neighbor to ensure the Kurds remain suppressed and the border remains sealed. But Israel views a strong, Islamist-leaning Syria as an existential threat. Israel's strategy is now one of balkanization, keeping Syria divided into ethnic and religious enclaves. This was proven in July 2025 when the HTS government attempted to crush a Druze uprising in the south. Israel seized the moment, declaring itself the protector of the Druze community across international borders. Israeli jets pounded Syrian government columns, forcing them to retreat and effectively granting the Druze de facto autonomy. By doing so, Israel didn't just save lives, they tore the map of Syria in two, incentivizing every other minority, the Alawites on the coast and the Kurds in the northeast, to resist central authority at all costs. This is Turkey's nightmare. If Syria remains fractured, the Kurdish proto-state remains alive, and the insurgency in Turkey will never end. Ankara is now cornered with few good options. They can launch a massive invasion to force unification, risking a bloodbath and Western sanctions, or they can turn to Russia, a fickle partner that has already shown it will stand aside when Israel starts bombing. as the United States prepares to withdraw its presence from the region. The buffer between these two powers is disappearing. No matter how you look at it, Turkey and Israel are no longer just rivals. They are heading toward a major confrontation that risks becoming the next great conflagration of the 21st century. This places Syria in a delicate balancing act between two powerful and opposing forces. Turkey seeks security and influence in the north, while Israel focuses on neutralizing threats in the south. The Syrian government must find a way to avoid direct conflict with both, while still maintaining its sovereignty and authority. This is not just a matter of politics, it is a matter of survival. To navigate this, several strategies may be essential, like adopting a form of diplomatic neutrality could help Syria position itself as a stabilizing force rather than a battleground. Or, building relationships with neutral or mediating countries could provide support and reduce isolation. And perhaps most importantly, the government must focus on internal strength, rebuilding the economy, restoring governance, and gaining legitimacy in the eyes of its people.